Hello and welcome. Have you ever been stuck in traffic or just dealing with some service that's not working and you think to yourself, there has to be a better way to do this? Well, that exact moment of frustration, that's where almost every single great tech idea is born. It's not some kind of magic, it's a process. And today, we're going to break down that exact process, the journey from a simple problem to a working prototype. Now, this whole explainer is based on the incredible work of Professor Essadou Gyamfi, and we also want to give a special shout out and thanks to Akwasi Ruben Abogi for his contributions. So let's jump right in. So let's start with the big question, the one that really drives everything we're talking about today. You see a problem, right? A challenge, a frustration, something in your world that just doesn't feel right. So how do you get from there to a real, tangible solution? What's the bridge that connects those 2 points?
Well, that bridge has a name. It's called ideation. And listen, this is not about some cartoon light bulb just popping up over your head. Real game-changing innovation is almost never a single eureka moment. Ideation is a process. It's a structured, methodical way to come up with tons of ideas, figure out which ones have potential, and then actually test them in the real world. Think of it as the engine room of innovation where the real work gets done.
All right, so let's get into our first major tool. And honestly, this one is probably the most important of all, design thinking. The whole idea here is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. The best solutions don't start with some cool new technology. They always start with people. It's all about building a deep, genuine understanding of the human beings you're actually trying to help. So this process gets broken down into 5 clear stages, and it all kicks off with empathize. Now, this isn't just about sending out a survey, it's about really feeling your users' pain points. Take a company like M Pharma in Ghana. Before they even thought about AI, they spent hours and hours with pharmacists, truly understanding the struggle of managing medicine inventory. It's only after you've done that you can actually define the real problem you need to solve. Once you've got that problem statement nailed down, then you ideate. This is the fun part. A wild, no bad ideas brainstorm of every possible solution. From that huge list, you pick one and build a prototype. And we're talking a simple, cheap, bare bones version of your idea. And finally, you test it. You put it in the hands of real people and see what happens. That's exactly what Farmerline did, getting feedback directly from farmers to make their weather alerts perfect. It's a cycle, you see? Each step just flows right into the next. So here's the bottom line. Why is this so important? Because following a process like design thinking massively cuts down your risk of failure. It literally stops you from spending months or even years building something that's technically amazing, but that nobody actually wants or needs. It makes sure that your solution is welded to a real human problem. Okay, so design thinking helps you find the right problem to solve. Fantastic, but how do you actually come up with a creative solution? Let's open up the Innovator's Toolkit and look at 2 more amazing methods, a creativity framework called Scamper and a really smart way to build a business called Lean Startup. First up, Scamper. I love this one. Think of it less like being an inventor who has to create something brand new out of thin air and more like being a really clever DJ. You're taking existing tracks, existing ideas and solutions, and you're remixing them, reimagining them to create something totally fresh. It's an amazing framework for looking at a problem from 7 different angles. Let's just look at a couple of these to see how it works. Take the S for substitute. The creators of M-Pesa basically ask, what if we substitute a physical bank building with a basic mobile phone? That one little substitution completely changed the game for millions of people. Or let's look at put to another use. Drone technology was already a thing, right? But Zipline asked an incredible question. What if we put these drones to a totally new use, like delivering life-saving blood and medical supplies to remote areas in Ghana and Rwanda? See? Every single letter in Scamper is just a prompt, a different way to ask what if that can spark the huge breakthrough. Okay, so design thinking helps you find the problem. Scamper helps you find a creative solution. Now what? The Lean Startup is basically the scientific method for building a business around that solution without wasting a ton of time and money. It's all about one thing, reducing risk by testing your biggest assumptions as fast as you possibly can. And the core of Lean Startup is this simple, powerful loop. First, you build something called a minimum viable product, or an MVP.
This is not your beautiful, final, polished app. No way. It's the absolute simplest, most basic version you can make that just solves the core problem for the user. The goal is to get it out there fast. Then you measure. You give this thing to real users, and you just watch. You collect the cold, hard data on how they use it. And finally, and this is the most important part, you learn. The data tells you the truth. It tells you whether you should persevere and keep going on your current path, or if you need to pivot, which means making a big strategic change based on what you just learned. It's a cycle that's all about finding out if you're right or wrong as quickly and as cheaply as humanly possible.
All right, so we've covered some pretty cool frameworks, but theory is one thing, right? What does all this actually look like when we use it to tackle urgent, real-world challenges that are happening all around us? Let's connect these big ideas to what's happening on the ground. Let's start with a problem that can be summed up in one pretty shocking number: 40%. According to the World Bank, that's the percentage of adults in Ghana who are unbanked. They just don't have a formal bank account. Now, that's not just a statistic. That's a massive wall blocking millions of people from economic progress, from saving money safely, from getting a loan, from building a future. So you have this massive problem: financial exclusion. What was the solution? It was absolutely brilliant, and it was simple: USSD mobile banking. Instead of trying to build something that needed a fancy smartphone and a fast internet connection, services like MTN Momo use the technology that works on any phone, even the most basic ones. They didn't try to force people to come to the banks. They used technology to bring the bank right into people's hands. And financial inclusion is just one piece of the puzzle. Once you start looking, you realize these opportunities are absolutely everywhere. In agriculture, we're losing a staggering amount of food after it's been harvested. In healthcare, a scary percentage of drugs on the market are fake. We have challenges in education with teacher shortages, in our cities with terrible traffic. Every single one of these is a massive opportunity, waiting for someone to apply the methods we've just talked about. And that really brings us right back to the beginning and right back to you. The next world-changing idea probably isn't going to come from some fancy lab in Silicon Valley. It's way more likely to come from you, just noticing a problem in your own community, on your way to work, or in your family's business. So I'll leave you with this question: what problem around you is just sitting there waiting for an idea? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. And a final huge thank you goes out to Akwazi Rubinabagi for his valuable input, and of course to Professor S. Adu Gyamfi. It was a real privilege to get to explore and share his work with all of you.